Hello, and a very warm welcome to this, my first live here on YouTube. So thank you very much if you're joining. And in fact, even if you're not, I'm kind of happy to be sat here on my own. As any of you who follow the Katie's Arms on Instagram, our online pub, will know, I can happily sit here for half an hour or longer alone, just talking to myself. So the reason I'm live on YouTube is that A, I've never done that before, and B, I owe YouTube and everybody who follows or subscribes or occasionally watches a big thank you. We're at, I don't know, 170,000 odd subscribers, I think, and that number in itself doesn't matter. But I wanted to thank everybody anyway, and in particular people who find it helpful to hop on the channel from time to time and realize they're not on their own. And that's essentially all I'm about at the moment here on YouTube, on Instagram, and anywhere else I might be, is trying to hold a firm line of sanity, to laugh at the madness together, and to reassure people they're not on their own. So thank you to everybody for Twitter, and having just seen Sky News be removed from YouTube for a week as well, who knows how long any of us are going to be around. So, but thank you very much to everybody for being part of this channel. I also wanted to give an Australian update. Following my removal from the country, I still remain kind of pleased the overall setup okay. It is now a penal colony once again, and in fact, the people that are now the prisoners on that island are Australians themselves. It is a very dark situation. It's dark in New South Wales. Sydney-siders are locked down beyond belief. The army is being called in to make sure people are in their own homes and not calling out to people, telling them that they'll be fined if they're caught outside. It's very difficult for Australians to imagine a time when they're ever going to be able to leave Australia again, and that's very hard because most have relatives overseas. 35,000 Australians are separated from their relatives and they can't return to Australia. And if they try to, they have to apply to try to get in, and they're rejected time after time. Many people haven't seen their own relatives for well over 2 years. It's a desperate situation and nothing like democracy at all. And because each of the states has a different premier, rather like the ginger dwarf from the north in Scotland, there's this weird competitive thing. And we've seen it here with Wales and Scotland as well, right? Is there's a competitive thing about who can be the biggest arsehole. And I think the ginger dwarf from the north, Nicola Sturgeon, does that spectacularly well. But it's the same in Australia. The different states compete to see who can be the biggest arsehole. Dan Andrews in Melbourne is, he can steal that crown anytime he wants. But the woman that runs New South Wales, a woman called Gladys Berejiklian, is unbelievably, she's off her rocker, I'm sure of it. They have been giving out advice. I was there watching this just prior to being hoisted out of my room and thrown on the gravel outside an airport. She says that when you go to the supermarket, you can't make choices about what you have. You just got to grab things like some weird supermarket sweep. And if you see a friend, you're not allowed to speak to them. Is that wild? And only one person from any one house is allowed to leave once a day for less than 90 minutes, less than 5 kilometers from their home, in order to get emergency supplies. And you are not allowed out for any other purpose other than to get a vaccine. And there aren't really that many vaccines to go around at the moment, even if you did want whatever that state injectable might be. So just the Australian situation is horrific. I am pleased that the Daily Mail is hosting some of my YouTube videos on Australia because I think it helps spread the message. I'm not at all concerned that they can label me whatever they need to in order to put that stuff up. Right-wing, extreme right-wing, conspiracy theorist, whatever. It really doesn't matter to me at all what I'm called. I think that it's just a way of having a conduit for people to go on as they are and writing not a word of a lie. She's telling the truth. So that's been kind of good in a way. And although there was quite a lot of punitive action on myself, and what I experienced and went through was not pleasant, and I will update on the full story about Australia at some other time when I'm more permitted to, what I had to go through for politicians to hide from them letting me in the country was quite something. But I think if it helps to highlight what's happening in Australia and gives Australians a sense that they're not on their own with all of this, it's totally worth it. Just in the same way that I'm banned from South Africa by the ANC and was detained at the airport and thought I was going off for detention and was preparing to protect myself from what was surely coming next as a white female in South African prisons. I'm still very happy that with that outcome, because I got to speak the truth of white farmers. And ultimately, you can deport my arse, but you can't deport the truth. So that's Australia. And one day we will touch on the full story, which is super interesting just to see how quickly the darkness can descend when the powerful decide that you need to be removed and what they're prepared to do to someone in order to achieve what their political masters need them to do. More of that another time. I wanted to share some things. So when I do my Instagram live on a Friday, it is properly, I mean, it's called the Katie's Arms because most of our pubs are called the something arms, right? So like the Nag's Head, the Queen's Arms, the King's Arms, became the Katie's Arms, partly because there was a bit of a thing going on about my arms at the time, but mostly it seemed fun. It was an online pub for when none of us could go to a pub, and it's now become a bit of a thing at 8 o'clock on a Friday, and it is literally pub night. There's no rules. It is just drinking and laughing. So it's a sort of comedic take on life, or basically me. I mean, most people think I'm just drunk because it's just me rabbling on. I thought this would be an opportunity on this live just to address some of the more serious stuff. And a lot of people get in touch with me a lot of the time, I think, because frankly, they have nobody else to turn to and no one else to talk to. And they have no one else to, because very often no one else has. So I wanted to share with you, I realized that, you know, one of the greatest loves of any job I've had, and I've been fired, as we know, from many, many jobs, if not nearly all jobs that I've ever had, is that I loved my radio job. And the reason I loved it so much was because regular people could call in and they would tell me their secrets. And because they were calling me from, say, their kitchen in their home on a Sunday morning when they were making their roast dinner or whatever, it was brilliant because they were kind of, it was almost as if they were speaking to their mother or something, and they were just confiding how they felt about stuff. And that's the only thing, in terms of being removed from everything ever, the only thing I miss is that connection with people, and then being able to, and for people to have this like window into how ordinary, normal people like me were feeling out there. So I miss that, but I'm fortunate in that people write to me, and anybody's welcome to katie@katiehopkins.co.uk. I do try to read all of my emails and respond to them, although sometimes that takes a while. And I wanted to share a few with you. I always change names, or I would never make it so that someone could be identified. I never want this to kind of be brought up by some mother's group saying, "Was this you, Sharon?" And then persecute someone. And I know what it's like when the mob descends, and it's a rough thing for anyone to try and endure. But I wanted to share some of these because possibly some of you will feel the same way as some of these people, which is sort of the way radio works as well, right? Someone's telling their story, and then you realize that they're just the same as you or think like you. And then you realize you're not mad or alone. There's other people out there that think just like you. So I just wanted to share a few of these. There's only 4 or 5 of them, and I'll just touch on the bits that I think are important. This one is from a lady who, and this is an example, and this is all going to be on the topic of kind of COVID, people's reaction to COVID, vaccination and all the rest of it. And we've just heard announced that 16 and 17-year-olds in the UK are going to be offered / given the vaccine, and they will be able to make their own decision on school premises whether they have that vaccine or not, with or without parental approval, which doesn't surprise me in the sense that schools have the right to change the gender of a child without informing the parents. So why wouldn't they bung a vaccine in a child? My personal view, and I appreciate this will be different to other people's views, is that I'm really happy that anybody does what they want. Anybody can have a vaccine or not, have a state injectable or not. It's really none of my bloody business as long as it doesn't impact on me. But what I very much object to is anybody else requiring me to do something to please them, or anybody else telling me I need paperwork to do things that I have a right to do, for example, travel or go in a restaurant or a bar. Personally, I would not want my children to have this. I recognise there'll be 16 and 17-year-olds out there who want it. I also know a whole world of 16 and 17-year-olds who email me to tell me that what the hell are they going to do when their friends demand that they have it. So anyway, this is from a lady who I've always been someone who sticks by all laws, and I'm a mother to a 2-year-old. Where I live is a small village called and I'm saying I won't have the vaccine to a small number of supposed friends, one of whom will be my brother-in-law. I was told by him last night, if I don't have the vaccine and rely on his parents for childcare, it'll be my fault if anything happens to him. His father has this and that wrong with him. He's deemed high risk. They are all double jabbed, which is their choice. But I'm being ousted as the selfish person by not. And so this lady's asking for help, what to do about it. So this idea, and I see it creeping in amongst the volumes of mail I get, this creeping in of people not only wanting someone to have the jab, but then making it so if something happens to this person, it will be because of you and you will be to blame. I'm seeing a lot of that. This lady, firstly, I wanted to say thank you. So the lady watches Instagram, Katie's Arms. I just wondered if you can give me some advice. My husband and myself are against the state, jabs, so vaccine. However, our daughter and her husband totally believe all of the COVID stuff. She's just told us she is pregnant, and they've decided, as we aren't vaccinated, I can't see her or our new grandchild when she arrives, as we'll be putting them at risk. We love them so much and are absolutely devastated. This world just seems so miserable. Not sure what the point is of going on anymore. My sister had a breakdown too. I'm sorry to bother you with this. People are so sweet, they confide their sweetest things and then they apologize for troubling me. All I worry about is that I don't quite know how to fix all of this. And if I could fix it, I would. And sometimes I wake up in the night and think, all of these people, and I want to be helpful and I don't know how. And I guess that's partly what this is about, is that sometimes by sharing, some people might have advice that they'll put on here. And we'll have comments in and of itself. But I think for people to almost take revenge on someone by denying them the right to see their own grandchild when it's like a first grandchild or a grandchild you're so looking forward to, that this human cruelty is so mean. And I increasingly believe that we are divided into absolutely two parts now. So there's one part of people who may be skeptical, or like myself, who are anti-state injectables or believe it's all a load of old shit. That's just my personal thing. And then that comes down a spectrum to people who are questioning it, don't know if it's quite right, maybe had one jab. And then over here at the far end, people who are completely sold, who are completely bought in, who we live, and almost at the point where they detest and hate someone who hasn't had it. And I don't believe, just like in so many other things, like if you were a Trump supporter or not, or if you were Antifa or a conservative, you're never going to find a place to meet. That it's now too far gone. And I think that's really true in Britain. It's too far gone. Some people, and you could argue it the other way against someone like myself, but people are too far gone. They are willing to rip apart their own family because their belief is such that they think you're going to kill their unborn child. So they're upsetting to read, but I think they're the truth of many, 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 many families. This from a lady who didn't want their child to be tested or wear a mask in school. My child was segregated in a room alone for the last 3 weeks of term, as the head teacher had to treat him and everybody as if they had coronavirus. and wouldn't chance him being in a classroom. He hasn't seen any of his school friends in nearly a year. As the days that go on and more bullshit comes out, I'm really overwhelmed to the point I'm panicking. I'm starting to wish I wasn't here and sad for myself and my child that we're living and existing in these times. I look forward to the Friday nights. I'm at a total loss where we go from here. I pray every night I wake up the next morning and we're back to normal and it's all been a big mistake. I just think that's what so many people feel like at the end of a day. They just get into bed and wonder what the hell is the point. And I get that a lot from elderly people as well, saying that they're glad their time is nearly up. I used to get those messages a lot, watching the kind of fall of Europe when it was kind of the times of mass, terrorist attacks and things. And now it's about COVID. Our elderly were not prepared to see this happen. And I'll finish on this one, which I think it's the one probably that just that still bugs me or still makes me worried because this person isn't alone out there either. I hope you're well, blah, 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 blah. People are very kind also to me, and I appreciate all of their kind words. I have a supportive husband and 2 beautiful girls, but I'm feeling more and more isolated outside of my home. I'm now having anxiety attacks just at the thought of going to the corner shop. I still manage to go to work, but only just. Everyone around me has had their vaccine, and I overhear them talking to each other, saying how people who are refusing to get poisoned are selfish. I know I'm not selfish. I know this is a terrible thing to say, but I think I lost my faith in God. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote a 2-page suicide note, which is still in my handbag. I've researched different ways of ending my life, and I want to make it look like an accident so my children wouldn't know Mummy just gave up. Katie, do you really believe from the bottom of your heart that we will win this battle? I don't know how much longer I can hold on. These are tricky and hard things to read, and they're also so tricky because I don't have the answers, and there's part of me that wants to run around with a big flag going, I don't really know anything. I mean, I know how the media works, and I know a bit about the military, and I'm okay at economics, and I'm pretty useful at giving a speech, and I understand politics, but I don't know how to stop this, and I don't know how to make people, I know what that's like, this idea that if you want to just, people are increasingly feeling that they're making a rational decision that they don't want to be around anymore. So it's not like they're kind of overwhelmed in a moment and just leap off a bridge, which, by the way, takes more courage than most of us have. It's that this is a rational thought process about, if this is life, I don't want to live this anymore, but I don't want to upset the people that I'll leave behind. So how can I make it look like it might have been an accident so I don't blight their life? I mean, this is the truth. And I find what's upsetting is that all of these people that used to have all of this kind of screen time or whatever, which is, good for them, and on their social media things, or maybe they were a patron of this charity or that charity, maybe they were on, I don't know, Comic Relief or something because of mental health, or they were a spokesperson for Mind or something. I kind of want to ask them, where are you? I've never been known. I mean, probably the opposite is true. I was kind of demonized in the media for being someone who's power. Of course, actually, the opposite is true. There's always been a fight for my country and the people that I care about, which is pretty much. I have these letters, and I'm not answers, but I do know enough to know that I can honestly answer this lady and say, yes, it will be all right. It will, definitely. And I have a certainty for that. It might not be all right in my lifetime, and I anticipate that to be short. I always have done. Like, it was always a surprise when I made it to, was it 30 to start with? Yeah, 30 was a bit of a surprise. 40 was a shock. Like, when I got to 40, I was never supposed to get to 40. It was like, epilepsy was what my fits, I call them fits, but you're supposed to call them seizures. I don't give a shit. My seizures were supposed to finish me within 2 years, and that was at 30. I wanted to get out of 35-ish. So getting to 40 was always a thing. And then now that I'm on my way to being bloody 50. I know everyone always says I'm like 65. I'm genuinely not. I'm 46. It's been a harsh life. Um, so I don't expect to live long, nor do I plan to, like old age never appealed. That's my headstone. Or maybe, doubling continents was never my thing. So there's the sort of, I see myself sort of exiting sooner rather than later. But, and I'm very at ease with I made my peace with all of that a long time ago as well. But I don't want to go in a disappointing manner. I don't want to like trip on a curb or like, have some sort of heart attack in the street or just have a big seizure and that be it, or that be okay. I want to go out with some sort of panache, even if it's early. But the point is, you see, this is what happens on Instagram Live. There's a segue and then I never come back. The point is, I know that it might not be all right in my lifetime, but it doesn't work like that. So this is the baton. And all you have to do in this life, and all I have to do is keep running with the baton. Because at some point, just like when you're doing the relay, right? I used to be an Army 800 Army relay runner. So when you're ready with the baton, you're running with the baton, you only have to be able to hit it into the hand of the receiver. And that's really much more how I see life. It's a sort of a transition of baton passing from souls great and less great to other souls. So I know it will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. I also know, because I'm 100% truthful to everything I do, is what I believe. I know that I'm always trying to do, even when it goes really, really wrong, and it's gone spectacularly wrong more times than any of us could, well, I mean, you all know, you've seen the pictures. Even when things go spectacularly wrong, in my mind, they might not be wrong because it might have been worth the pain. And doing those wrong things mean that other people might be able to avoid doing the wrong thing, or maybe the wrong thing took us forward a bit, whatever. But I have absolute certainty it will be all right in the end. And one day we will look back at this time as a period of collective madness, like a psychosis. And people will use this time as a case study. And they will look at certain countries that went harder and faster down a dark path, Australia, New Zealand, and then other countries who managed to stand firm. And if there was ever a time for me to be uplifted by Americans and their, hold on, which side? That side, and their Second Amendment, it is now. Because I can tell you, you don't get the army policing whether someone's in their home in America, because they have the right to defend themselves and their property, and that right is God-given. So I guess I don't have the answers to all of these things, but I know for certain it's very lonely out there for a lot of people. I know for certain people who have already ended their lives. I know many people know people who have, and yet there is an absolute silence about it in the media. And that being my heritage, I'm appalled by people's lack of decency and principles in order to keep their little shitty place on some shitty show or whatever, or keep their radio slot, or they're prepared to throw away all of the things they stood for before and just keep nodding along or saying nothing. Just a bit like the silent scream, isn't it? And I also know it will be all right in the end, because good prevails. And as long as you can say that you're living what you think is the very best thing for you and your family, but definitely for you, then you're okay. And you need to have the confidence and the certainty of that. And at no point is it, people say, oh, Katie, she's got this rhino. I mean, I have got the wrinkles of a rhino. Maybe I should get one of this. What do? They put it all up, don't they, like that? What do you think? And then get rid of the lips. But then I worry that because I need to move my face, I worry I won't be able to move my face. Whereas yes, it's not that I'm a thick skin. It's that everything always hurts. So when people, for example, in Australia, people were going to poison my food that was being delivered. So I couldn't eat my food, so people had to come and bring sealed food. So I could only eat sealed, factory sealed foods, because there was threats for me not being able to eat, because people wanted to kill me. It's not okay to say, oh, well, there's water off a dust bag. Never mind, here I am. I'm going to eat my yogurt. That's fine. That people are angry. They don't generally mean what they're saying. if they did kill you, they would probably look at you and think, shit, took that a bit far. And then you have to process through it and get to a point where it's okay and you can put it away for a bit. And sometimes you have to get the box back down, open it again and process it all again, the same thing again, and then put it back in the box and put the box back on the shelf. And it might be you have to do that 15 times a day. Take the box down, think about what they're saying, think about the way they're going to try and stop you seeing your grandchild, accept that for now you won't be able to see your grandchild, but that hopefully in time you can find a way around that, or hopefully in time they can learn to be more open, or hopefully in time this passes. Put it in the box and put it away and then bring it down again. And definitely don't, if you think you need to end it to get, as anybody who knows who will have read my book, I'm not trying to sell my book, it's sold out. There are times I didn't want to carry on with epilepsy at all because my life was too, dislocating my arms with these seizures. But now that I'm here still, when I wasn't supposed to be, and I'm on this extra time, I would really, really hate it if I'd missed this bit. So that's what I really feel about, is if you're the lady who's saying that I just want to end it and find a way to end it so my children won't be upset, please think, what if on extra time, which you effectively are on if you stick around another day, what if something great happens in your extra time? And if you missed that, you'd have missed that moment. And I think that loads about my own life now. Even the littlest things, that I would miss all of this and I'd be pissed off that I'd missed it. But neither do I want to be around forever. So that's how I feel. I wanted to share these letters. I probably selfishly wanted to feel that I tried to answer some of them, or at least give some hope to some people. It's upsetting, isn't it? Give some hope to some people, because we can endure stuff. And I know personally, we can endure much more than we think we can. I've had my head sawn off. I'm missing a bit of my brain. My arms have been re-sewn. I've been thrown out of countries. I've been universally hated in my own country. It's very lonely. But even then, at the pointy end of the spear, like I sometimes think I am, some days you can just look behind you and see the rest of the arrow blade following you, all these brilliant people, just like this. And we're never alone. And then you feel the momentum of it. And then you can lift your little head up and you can put your shoulders back, because you were always true to you. And you never sold yourself out just to take the easy route or the easier road or have a wealthy life. Or maybe you did. If you're one of those people who abandoned people with mental health issues right now, you can offer tea piss. Because frankly, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. It's really a weird expression, that, isn't it? I mean, has anyone ever pissed on someone when they were on fire? I mean, at what point was that ever issued as an idea? I mean, I would piss on someone if they were on fire. I don't know. My wee might be flammable and then it wouldn't help the situation, and then there'd be like a Daily Mail headline: Hopkins pisses on someone, sets them ablaze. Conspiracy theorist, far right-winger, racist Islamophobe pisses on someone and sets them on fire. That will happen. Actually, I did walk in a church once to take my children to a church playgroup. I know, imagine. And someone did say to me, I think it was the vicar, he said, "Oh, I'm surprised you haven't, I'm surprised you haven't, sparked into flames." It's a bit rude. Anyway, I didn't want to take too much of your time. I didn't want to go over time. I think 30 minutes is plenty. Let's see how we go with these. I'm not trying to make this a regular thing. I don't like podcasts. And actually, I'm not sure I particularly like the sound of my own voice that much. But I do want to accord respect to people who have taken the time to write, who are in difficult positions and who feel alone. And I'm here to remind you, you're not on your own. There's many of us. And we're all out there. And like spiders on a little web, I went to this the other day, you might not be able to see all of your family out there, but some days, if you just feel it, you can feel that you're part of a terrific crowd. And sometimes when I'm up on a stage, in America, in a room full of however many thousand people, then you look out and you go, there's a lot of us and we're really good types. We're super fun. We super want the best for each other, and we just want everyone to live the very best life that they can. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely evening or day. Please do hold on to each other or write things on here that you think might be helpful to the people that we just talked about. If you want to get in touch, please do. My email is katie@katiehopkins.co.uk. Please know that I never break confidence and I never disclose any details that I think could expose someone to the mob. Let me handle the mob, and you take care of you. And I'll see you next time. And if you would like to join me when I'm ranting like a maniac and people assume I'm just an elderly drunk, then just grab an Instagram account and just delete it after. And it's Katie's Arms at 8 o'clock on a Friday. And that's _Katie_Hopkins_. Just I don't have an underboob. Okay, on that note, have a lovely evening.